It feels like we're living in an actual science fiction movie. We've got AI that can translate languages on the fly, spot diseases, and create mind-blowing art. With all these incredible breakthroughs, you'd think we'd all be getting richer, right? That our whole economy would be booming. Well, that's where things get weird, and it brings us to a huge central mystery.
Okay, so let's just look at the evidence. On the left here, you've got this incredible story of AI progress. I mean, look at this chart. It shows AI's error rate in recognizing images. And right around 2015, it didn't just meet human-level performance, it blew past it and kept getting better. But then you look at the chart on the right, and that's our economic reality. That's global productivity growth, and it's been slowing down, kind of stagnating for over a decade. So what is going on here? We have this revolutionary tech, but our economic growth is just flat?
Believe it or not, this isn't the first time we've been stumped by a puzzle like this. It's really a modern take on what economists call the Solow paradox. A few decades back, the Nobel laureate Robert Solow said you could see the computer age everywhere except in the productivity stats. And today, it's the same story, just a different technology. We see the AI age everywhere, but it's missing from those exact same numbers.
So yeah, that is the big question we're going to try and unpack. If AI is as big a deal as everyone says it is, why isn't it making all of us more productive and, frankly, richer? To really get to the bottom of this, we're going to follow the work of a leading expert who's been on this case for years.
And that expert is Erik Brynjolfsson. He's an economist who has basically spent his entire career playing detective, trying to solve this very mystery.
So who is this guy? Well, Brynjolfsson is the director of the Digital Economy Lab over at Stanford. Before that, he was a professor at MIT for 30 years. Through these really influential books like The Second Machine Age, he's become one of the top thinkers on how technology is changing our world. He's not a doomer, not at all. He actually calls himself a mindful optimist, which basically means he thinks the good stuff is coming, but we have to be really smart about how we get there.
All right, let's join him on this investigation. It's time to figure out what happened to all that missing growth.
So in this really important paper he wrote with his colleagues, they basically laid out the whole case. They identified 4 potential culprits, or as they call them, suspects, that could explain this whole paradox.
Okay, here are the 4 main suspects. First up, false hopes. Is it possible that AI is just, a bunch of hype, not actually that revolutionary? Suspect number 2, mismeasurement. Maybe AI is creating a ton of value, but our old-school economic tools, like GDP, just aren't seeing it. Third, concentrated distribution. This means the gains are real, but they're all being gobbled up by a few superstar companies or people and not trickling down to the rest of us. And finally, number 4, implementation lags. This one's pretty simple. Maybe this stuff just takes time, a long time, to really show up in the numbers.
Now, Brynjolfsson and his team argue that, yeah, those first 3 might be part of the story, but the evidence, the real heavy evidence, points overwhelmingly to one primary culprit that solves the entire mystery.
And here it is, the big reveal. The answer to the paradox is a concept called the productivity J-curve.
So what on earth is a J-curve? Well, it's this idea that when you have a truly massive, game-changing technology like AI, you don't just get an instant boom. No. In fact, you often get a temporary slowdown first, maybe even a dip in productivity. Why? Because the entire economy has to basically rewire itself to take advantage of the new tech. And this isn't just some abstract theory. We've actually seen this movie before. The absolute best example from history is the switch from steam power to electricity in factories, way back when.
Just think about it this way. When factories first got their hands on electric motors, what do you think they did? They literally just took out the huge, clunky steam engine and plopped a giant electric motor in its place. That's it. And guess what happened to productivity? Nothing. It barely moved. The real game changer, the big revolution, didn't happen for decades. It happened when people finally realized, hey, with electricity, we can completely redesign the factory. We can put small motors on every single machine. That reinvention of the whole process, that's what finally made productivity skyrocket.
And this is what that looks like. This is the J-curve. See that initial dip? That's the period of massive, often hidden investment. It's not just buying the new tech. It's all the hard work of reinventing how you do business, retraining your entire workforce, figuring out new processes, creating totally new business models. Economists call these things intangible assets. And all this retooling actually looks like a productivity drag in the official numbers. But that's the crucial phase that sets the stage for the enormous takeoff that comes later. And the scale of this hidden investment is just mind-boggling.
Research suggests that for every single dollar a company spends on the technology itself, say the AI software, they might need to spend up to $10 on all that other stuff, those intangible assets. That's the real work of transformation, and that's why there's a lag.
So, okay, what does all this mean for us right now? Let's talk about the implications. Because if this J-curve theory is right, it means the real AI boom hasn't even started yet.
And that raises a super important question. If we're sitting in the dip of the J-curve right now, getting ready for this massive takeoff, how do we make sure we actually get it right? How do we get the best possible outcome from this coming wave?
Well, on this point, Brynjolfsson has a very specific warning for all of us. He says we have to avoid falling into something he calls the Turing trap.
So, the Turing trap is what happens when we get obsessed with just one thing, using AI to copy what humans do so we can automate their jobs away. This creates a direct competition, a race against machines that, let's be honest, people will probably lose. The much smarter path, the one that leads to real growth, is augmentation. The goal here isn't to replace people, it's to use AI to supercharge them, to help them do things that were never possible before. It's about creating a race with machines.
And that's really the key takeaway here. The biggest wins, the truly massive productivity gains, aren't going to come from just swapping a person for an algorithm. They're going to come from total reinvention, using AI as a powerful tool to augment our own intelligence and creativity.
Which brings us right back to where we started. That whole AI paradox, that weird mismatch between the incredible hype and the boring economic numbers, it's not a sign that AI is a failure. No. If the J-curve is right, it's the exact opposite. It's the quiet, messy, and totally necessary beginning of a massive economic transformation. It's the sound of the world getting ready for what's next.
But here's the thing. This amazing future isn't guaranteed. As Brynjolfsson himself likes to say, technology doesn't decide our fate for us. It all comes down to the choices we make.
And that really leaves us with the final question, doesn't it? We're standing at this incredible moment in history, with this enormous potential for progress right in front of us. The choices we make right now, as people, as companies, as a society, are going to decide what that future actually looks like. So the question is, how are we going to shape it?